Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chassis Chatter. And today we'll be discussing the Portuguese Grand Prix. You got me, George, and you got Ella to help me out to cover with qualifying. So, where do you want to go? Where do we start?
Shall we dive in with quali?
Yes, sounds good. I'm going to make the really bad declaration that I didn't watch qualifying or practice this weekend. I'm sorry.
Okay, so as I'm doing on behalf of both of us, this is what I thought, and I want to hear your opinions after you hear it, basically. Quali, yeah, I mean, it had a shocker from the start because Ricardo went out in the first session. That was a bit of a shocker.
That's the first time a McLaren has gone out in Q3 or is it Q3 or Q1? Sorry, Q1. I'm losing it. That since 2019.
Yeah, it's about that. It was quite a big shock that he went out. I personally don't know why. I was just went out.
This weekend's been really difficult for him, hasn't it? Because Ricardo got told by Zach Brown at the beginning of the week, "Don't worry, we're only on race 3. You don't need to stress about where you're coming." But if you can't,
he should be.
Yeah, I agree. I don't.
It's not looking good for him. And then the usual sort of went out. Russell just missed out on the top 10 going into Q3. Shame, but at the moment it's been a pattern. But we had Alpine. I think I said it right. Made it into the top 10 and actually finished 6th, which was quite good for him. I thought was quite a stellar performance. But Bottas coming through on pole position, he just came out of nowhere. I just was like, oh, because it was sort of in the fight between Lewis and Hamilton, and then Bottas somehow got in front, and then Lewis didn't set a quicker time, and then Max did, but then track limits, and he was quite furious after it.
Wasn't that turn 4 track limits that did Max in?
Yes, but we all, the viewers, we also sort of knew because we saw the camera go over. So we sort of knew he didn't get it, but his car was quick. He would have been on pole if he didn't go over, by far.
Because I watched the highlights bit of it, and I was seeing the end of it, and it kind of seemed that Bottas set this 118, 348. Amazing lap, and then they went in and went out for one more lap, and both of them, it was the thing of, oh, Lewis isn't really there, but he's matching, but isn't quite getting any more time, and both of them were, I think Bottas was crowned pole sitter 5 minutes before the session ended, really.
Yeah, this is what I don't get, because it's very anticlimactic. Last race was Hamilton got it, and then no one else could beat it. So this is it becoming a pattern? If so, I don't like it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Qualifying, it seemed it kind of set up for this hopeful Bottas weekend, Bottas comeback, and in my view, it's kind of just come out as another standard. Valtteri sets and takes pole. He leads for about 10 laps, gets overtaken, and ends up 3rd. I can't have much hope at all, really. And I don't know. I'm getting to the point where a lot of the times when I'll watch and take qualifying off of just a timesheet and just see how does it go.
I'm not gonna lie, qualifying wasn't that exciting. I had it on the background while doing some work, and occasionally I flipped to it. It wasn't wow, so exciting, who's going to get it? Oh my goodness, they're fighting for this. No.
Well, on that note, on that sad, somber tone, should we move on to what should be the more interesting part of the race?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't hugely exciting. It basically was the same people fighting. It was a little bit more interesting. Because you had the whole tyre strategies and who was going to pit first and the undercut, overcut. And then Perez did amazing on I think he had 51 lap tyres on. old tyres and he was leading the race for a moment. And we all knew Hamilton was going to up to him, but like he was helping out his teammates to try and get closer and build the gap. And I get that. But for him to be on lap 51 tyres and then still going, like, I've got to give him credit for that. That was...
No, well, did you know that? So he got Horner pulled him, did an interview halfway through the race. It's like, what are you playing with, Perez? And he was like, no, Checo's just running. Like, he's doing what he's told. Like, this is his strategy. He's like, well, you're not slowing up the Mercedes then for his team. I was like, no, that's unsportsmanship. No, we wouldn't do that. But I think it was just coincidental he's there. But what was more funny was Hamilton believing he was leading the race when he overtook Perez. Like, he said, why isn't he blue flagged?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Like, no, he's ahead of you. He just hasn't pitted.
Yeah, that was quite humorous. But what I didn't like was Mazepin. And because Perez leading the race and Perez was trying to overtake Mazepin because he was lapping the car. He was behind. And Mazepin just was like, for 5 straight flags, was like, nah, I'm not getting out of the way. And like, it got to a corner where Perez was trying to get through. And he was like, no, I'm going to try and cut you off.
Yeah, well, it's like you text me and the messages were so like vicious against him. Like self-declaring.
I said straight away, there's 5-second penalty straight away.
Yeah. Like, he was I don't know what he's doing. And like, bear in mind, what was he last week? He gave an interview and said, I'll let my driving do the talking. Well, yeah, your driving's done the talking.
His driving is not helping. It's not helping. And he's getting more drivers hate on him.
Mm.
Like, every single week, there's more drivers going quite reckless,
Yeah. Bit that I think Lewis had the race the moment he took Valtteri on that corner. I don't think Valtteri expected Lewis to come charging around the outside because Valtteri's been really clever. Like that turn 1, he was really expecting he would take he deliberately thinking he was defending, took that corner at a wider angle, but meant that he was slower, and Lewis just went, oh, I'll see you later. And just, although he was going the longer way round, it was actually faster because he just didn't brake. He just went for it.
Yeah, I found it a little bit more interesting because Lewis and Max were having a bit of a battle.
Yeah.
Even if it was like 2nd or 3rd place, like they were having a battle. And I think with Bottas was getting involved. Okay, yes, like he wasn't as amazing and like he should have won the race with pole, but like, it's Bottas, come on. Yeah. You've got to give him some credit where it's due. He was getting in there with the fight. Perez, not going to lie, he wasn't really in it.
Mm.
Sorry, Perez. Like, you were doing his job. He was getting points for the team and it was fine. He was doing a team job. You could say that about Bottas, really. But he was getting in there a bit more, which I like to see.
Yeah, no, I think he's there. I don't know when it was. We'll pick you for fastest lap. And you can see that it just wasn't clear that he was actually going to get the. It wasn't actually He wasn't going to catch Max. Like it was. The problem is they were so far spaced in the end, weren't they? Like
they could all pit and try and go for fastest lap.
But that's what I feel really sorry for is Perez. Like as much as my star child Norris, but that problem with when Norris took that position and then slowed Perez down. Perez's race was actually over then because he couldn't actually pit later in the race because he ended up having to fight for that position back. I don't know. It looked like Red Bull say Perez had to fight for it back, and what it looked like was he weren't really fighting. He just kind of let him through. But they're arguing over track limits, but there wasn't because I'm assuming because he's at the place back anyway. There's no penalty needed. The worst bit would have been if he didn't give the place back. Norris charged up the field and was like 2 or 3 cars ahead, and then has to give the place back. It's really difficult. How do you do that?
But apart from that, apart from Russell having some issues with the car, can't follow in with dirty air, so I keep going dirty. Yeah, but apart from that, there was nothing really happening.
No, actually, the one thing I would want to highlight though is that perhaps we are going to talk about track limits quite a bit in our breakdowns for drivers, because it seems that this week that there is it may be a mark of this season that there is this idea that track limits should be changed all the time depending on what part of the race weekend we're at. So before this podcast, me and Ella had a massive argument as such over Max's fastest lap. Ella, do you want to go through the situation?
Well, I remember Max got fastest lap, and everyone on Sky were like, "Yeah, he's got fastest lap." We saw that he sort of went over a little bit, but they were saying, "Oh, they're not looking at it." And then it came up saying his lap's been deleted, and they're a bit like, "Well, we're not sure whether basically they were like, but they're not, track limits there." And when they spoke to Max, he was like, "What do you mean they weren't 10-14? They're not looking at it. Like that's not the place where they basically said track limits.
15.
There isn't anything.
It was 1, 4, and 15 originally.
I don't know. So there's lots of confusion with it. Is it not? And then you Googled things.
Well, yeah, because it was on the night, or not the night, but after Brundle was clear pretty quickly that there is track limits of 14, and I was quite shocked that no one had told Max before, or when he was going over, someone just nutted him and, by the way, you got done by track limits, because he felt a bit shafted on the in the interview getting told that way. But Michael Massey changed and updated the briefing Saturday morning for FP3, saying that track limits at turn 14 would be looked at. They cannot go off beyond the red and white curb. And I don't know if it's just a problem with where it seems race directors are updating drivers' regulations. So we had a briefing Friday night which agreed most of it, and Saturday morning there's an amendment to it. Perhaps it's the case of
a breakdown between the drivers and the things. Is there, because it seems like he didn't know about it?
No, well, if he didn't know about it, then he should have. You should have read it.
But you would think that maybe the team would be like, go for the faster, by the way, this, be careful on this turn, and this turn, they're in track limits.
Yeah.
You would think that maybe they would say something when he's trying to go for it, like I would. I'd be like so cautious. I'd be like, by the way, this. And they'd be like, yeah, shut up.
If this changed Saturday, he should have been briefed on it on Saturday. But this is why the problem is. It's that we are seeing regulations on tracks change during race weekend, which is standard, but it just seems it's more prevalent this season, and it's actually causing a bit of issue because the driver. I don't know if it's just drivers being very blasé, or is it just not a failure of communication properly? But it just seems it's hampering race weekends with topic of discussion is track limits on this turn. This person loses out because of it as a result.
Because there's been other corners where people have clearly gone off, and I don't want to say some more names, but Hamilton, he went off a couple of times and his lap wasn't deleted. It was previously in the race. It was like at the start, but still, there's just, there's some times where it does get deleted and there's times it doesn't. Is there?
Yeah, it's really depending on. I'm sure I reckon it comes down to an advantage issue, because at some of those corners, if you did go off, you would have an advantage. So they are trying to be really strict with it, but I don't know. I don't say it's hampering racing, but it's difficult every time you say, "Oh, Craig's back." This is the same problem with what happened with Lando and Perez, is because Lando assumedly went off track to do the overtake. but no one picked up on it, and really there was no investigation for it.
It just makes it a bit more confusing and more. I feel like we're now picking up on it a lot more.
Definitely. So, well, do you want to move on? We can go down through our ratings if you like.
Yes, please. Let's move on from track limits because it's boring.
So,
basically, if you don't know what we're doing, we're just rating our drivers in the old school system where 8A is the highest, 1C is the lowest. You basically have a number and to 8 basically, and then you go A, B, C. So there's A, you're close to the band above. C, you just scraped it. Basically, I'm not really good at explaining it, but you guys should hear it by now. So
if you've been listening, you would have learned.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
Well, should we start with the podium then? So Hamilton, Verstappen, and Bottas.
Okay. I gave Hamilton and Verstappen a 7C. Yes, they were quite good, but it's not wow for them. It was just a drive for them. And I gave Bottas a 7B because, right, for Bottas, I thought it was a good drive. He got pole out of nowhere. And credit for that. And plus, he was getting in the fight a lot more. He wasn't just there doing his own race. He was still getting involved as much as he could, as much, He is the second seat. He's not in it for the championship as much as he was I'll let my driving talk. He's not, sorry. But I just felt like he was just improving a little bit more and showing a little bit more fight, which is nice to see.
Yeah, well, I agree with you with Hamilton. I gave him a 7C. I was most impressed with just the way when he was doing his overtakes, but once he'd actually got his overtakes done, and just assume, and it's just a great when he was with Perez, just assumes he's leading the race. He basically was. That was it. Once lap 20 was over, Hamilton it was won for him. Verstappen, I was a bit kinder with. I gave him a 7B, mainly because I thought he had, he was there, the strategy was nearly right for him. There was times where he kind of looked a bit out of place, shouldn't have been, or behind where he should have been, but I was quite, him off the start, slotting ahead of Lewis and getting in between, he pretty much cemented himself there and then as second place. I think he knew where he wanted to be, at least that and just had to work from that. Bottas, I was a bit harsh on him. It was his race to lose. He did the restarts right. I was a bit concerned, so I gave him a 6A. I'll be clarified with this, but I was a bit concerned where, especially with the restart, corking back to the restart we had last time, led by Bottas, was the going straight to the line was we're going to have a pile up at the back again. So I was a bit worried about that. He went a bit close to the line, which you could see some of them getting a bit jumpy. That's how Max got round Lewis, because he overtook him on one way and then went right, accidentally overtook him nearly, and then had to go back left, but still got the manoeuvre done. But yeah, Bottas kind of just fell back, and when it was Tosa, and you're the fastest car on track. So you were, not anymore though. And I don't know, it seemed that he was there. He was kind of trying to get in the fights, but in the grand scheme of things, he really couldn't. So,
shall we do Perez? But before we do Perez, I just wanted to quickly mention, when you're saying how Hamilton thought that he was basically leading the race, I thought that was quite I don't know what the word is, but it's a bit arrogant.
Yes.
And it's not what you want to already hear, he blue flags him. I'm he's leading the race.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah, no, I would have thought Bono would have mentioned that you're P2.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming he's just in his own head thinking, I'm leading.
So quite often, when when you go past the straight, they have what position you are.
Yeah, no, there's the thing. He's not looking at the board either.
You would think if he's not looking, you should know. And they tell you like how close you are to the next car in front or how far. So it would be like the next car after he's overtaken.
Yeah, unless
was
he's
it Max? Your next car is Perez.
Yeah, I'm assuming unless it's just he's told Bono just shut up, be quiet. I'm just doing my own thing. I think Norris did the same actually this race. I think he did tell his race engineer just.
But they still told like the next car after the because someone's this person and you're this far away, and then I'd be like, then I would shut up. Yeah, well,
he's just going through the motions, isn't he, Hamilton? He's there just going through the motions. He knows he's going to win most of the time, so it doesn't matter.
Does he know? Does he?
So
anyway, let's do Perez because we've spoken a lot about that.
Yeah.
We'll do Perez, Norris, and Leclerc. I don't know. People say his name different ways. So Perez, I gave 7B.
Yeah.
Come on, he did 51 laps on the same tyres. Got to give him credit for that. And he was leading the race for a long time, may I just say. For a couple of laps, it was, so I got to give him credit for that. Norris, I gave a 6A, his usual position.
Mm-hmm.
He did a good race. Where he qualified, where should he qualify? He qualified 7th. Okay, so he did get a place. He was all right. And then Leclerc gave a 6B. Again, I didn't really see him throughout the whole race. He just seems to always be there. Yeah. I don't know how he does it. He just does.
Yeah,
what about you?
Well, for me, I gave Perez a 7A, mainly because how much he worked on that with those tyres, and especially with how he ended up. The problem with Lando and what happened to Lando in the early race did ruin Perez a bit, but Perez, the fact that he knew his role was to support. Really, his race was over by lap 20. In the scheme of things, and knowing that he got to what he was leading in lap 44, wasn't it? He was leading.
Yeah. However, he didn't have a seat, so
no.
He's got to be grateful. He's racing, and Red Bull will be grateful that he's getting points.
Yeah, I know.
And he's doing quite well, I would say.
Yeah, he is doing well, but the Red Bull like him, and I think he will keep his seat for next time. I don't think he's going anywhere.
I think so.
I think he's quite.
I think he's good for Max.
Yeah. With 7, I gave Norris a 7B because he's the best of the rest. He just knew how he needs to lead the team. For McLaren, he was quite lucky that Ricciardo knows the place that not like they are equal drivers, but Norris has settled in and will deliver better position than him most of the time. You
would have thought, though.
I know.
At the start of the year.
Yeah, I know. I think
I thought Ricciardo was going to be the main man.
Yeah, no, I thought that as well. But I think Norris has proved himself as a really capable driver in his own right, to be honest. And he's just delivering. Like so far it looks he's fourth himself in the Drivers' Championship, isn't he? At the moment, I think.
Which just proving that Ricciardo should not have left Red Bull.
So no, but hey ho, he wanted it better. He wanted to just do something else. He was there for so many years, and he knew that if he was with Max, he wasn't going to get anything, would he?
But he'll at least be closer.
I know.
He could have finished third in the championship. That's something. That's an achievement.
Yeah, and finally for
podiums. Anyway, yeah.
But for Leclerc, I gave him a 6A. It's just another solid drive. He's delivering for Ferrari. He's like the underdog here. He's just delivering solid drives without too much hassle, I think.
What do points make?
Pardon?
Points make. I did.
Sorry? What?
Okay, just don't know. Points make prizes. So him doing a consistent drive, stacking up the points will help his team get higher and get prizes.
Oh, I see what you... Yes, okay, that was a bit slow there by me.
Oh my god.
Don't give me that face. I understand. Like
Well, we always say you always take the points.
yes, like you always should take the points, and he's just delivering right for Ferrari. Yeah, and his teammate on the other hand had a bit of a worse weekend, but hey ho. So
We'll get on to that.
yeah, right. Should we move on to the next set? We've got Ocon, Alonso, and Ricciardo. How did you do with them?
Ocon qualified quite well, I said before. So I gave him a 6C. It was good for the Alpines. Like, I don't know, have they been in that position before? They might have done, but they should be around there anyway.
Yeah.
So just seemed to be there. There wasn't much during the race. They just happened to be there. So yeah, I gave them both a 6C because they were just there and I can't remember much of them. But memorable. Sorry, being honest this week. You're laughing at me.
I'm not laughing. I just disagree slightly. But you finish Ricciardo, and then I'll.
Ricardo gave us 5C. He just had an awful weekend, and he still got points. Points make.
Just prizes. I got there in the end. Well, for me, Ocon, I gave a 6A. He delivered a really solid drive. Like he did qualify. He qualified. Let's have a look. Ocon qualified 6th, so he was close to where he was. Like he held position, had a good solid race, kept his head down. I was more impressed by his teammate Alonso, who, bearing in mind, Alonso qualified at 13th, I think, if I'm right. Yeah, 13th he qualified. He looked like he was going to have a bit of trouble. He locked up and went wide in the first lap, lost position there. And in the second stint, his car just come alive. Like, he was charging through the field. So overtaking Sainz, Gasly, Ricciardo, he was just going for it. And the problem was none of these drivers knew he had pace like that. That was the problem. All of them were. Sainz was especially surprised when he realised that Fernando Alonso was like right up his rear and was about to overtake him. Like Alonso just found pace later in that race, and where his tyres just slowly went. He just kept his head down. He delivered he got that extra points finished for the team. So I gave him a 7C for that, just to say.
Right, you persuaded me to go up a bracket to give 6B.
Yes,
but you are a bit of an Alonso fan.
Yes, I am an Alonso fan, but
you are a bit more biased.
I'm not biased. I just think that was a very good drive. Bearing in mind that was that drive was one of his best, and it was his first his points finished for 3.
Okay, he's 6B, consistent.
Yeah.
Okay,
and then I gave Ricciardo a 6B.
lenient.
Not 6B, sorry, 5B. I don't think.
I gave him a 5C.
Yeah, I think he recovered. Yes, I've called it a recovery drive. In the end, from where he getting knocked out on 15th, 16th in his qualifying position. I think he's well aware that he's just not fitted in just yet, and McLaren are going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think that we can expect a lot more from Ricciardo. And this weekend just wasn't. It's his weekend. Like we've got another 20, or we've got another 18 to 19 Grand Prix to go. Like he will start to show some life later in the season. Right, we've now got one more points finish to go, and then we're out of the points.
Shall we quickly do Gasly, and then we can do the points sort of as like do half and half.
Yeah.
We can just do the 5 and 5. Gasly, I gave 5B, as did you.
I agree.
Yeah, it was good. It was all right. He went down and came back up. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't the greatest drive. We've seen a lot more from him. Yeah. But he got points where his teammate didn't. So
no, he got one. He got the 1 point. Like I think it's for Gasly.
Best drive.
Yeah, though we were expecting.
Struggled, I would say.
Yeah, he did. I think, but he struggled last week as well, and the week before. I don't know. They had when we saw Yuki at Bahrain really going for it. It was like a great opening for it. It was great, but the outfit had just kind of fallen backwards slightly, I think. So hopefully we'll just wait and see.
All right. Shall we do science? Giovinazzi, Vettel, Stroll, and Yuki.
Yep. Well, I gave Sainz a 4A. It really wasn't a good drive from him, bearing in mind how high he qualified. You didn't expect Alonso to speed up on him. He cut and Gasly overtaking him at the end kind of just. I don't know. He seems flat though, and it's not really what. It's not what Ferrari need, but I don't. Ferrari have got a lot of faith in him to deliver, and I just don't think this was one of his weekends. Giovinazzi, I gave a 5C. Bearing in mind he had his teammate run right in the back of him. Like he's finishing where he normally finishes. Like it wasn't necessarily a bad drive from him, or it's a necessarily good one. Slightly, I think he kind of delivered as he should do. Vettel and Stroll, I think I need to do these together because this is a wider problem with Aston Martin as a whole. Aston Martin brought an upgrade kit to Portugal. They gave it to Stroll. And not only did Vettel out-qualify his teammate, he also outperformed his teammate in the race. Like you would have thought if they're bringing an upgrade kit, maybe he should really be Stroll, Vettel, but for that reason I gave Vettel I gave a 4C, and Stroll I gave a 3A because I just didn't quite think that if you have the upgraded car you should be delivering with it. And my final one is Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki, I don't know, he's behind his teammate, but it's kind of not one of these like wow drives that we've seen like Bahrain, and like so he struggled again last week, and I gave him a 4A for this. I think you just didn't see him. That was the problem. There was just he just wasn't, the fact that he wasn't there. It's just there was other stuff going on, and he kind of was just racing round for racing round's sake.
I'll be quick with mine. I was a bit harsher on Sainz, like in my 4B. I just felt like he should have been a lot higher. And I just feel like it just wasn't his race weekend. Giovinazzi, I gave him 5B. It was roughly where he was, so it's a bit more nicer. It's, where he usually finishes.
Yeah.
Vettel and Stroll, I both gave a 3A. I just feel like their car should be a lot higher from where it is.
Yeah.
I don't care if he got the upgrade pack, it should be higher. I don't care.
I agree.
And then Yuki, I gave a 4C. I was a bit lenient. Yes, he finished the race. But again, he should have been a lot higher.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're kind of getting to the bits where coulda, woulda, shoulda now.
Basically. And then shall we do the back of the pack?
Yes, we can. Do you want to open up with this one?
Okay. I gave Russell a 4B. I'm a bit disappointed in him, really. I was more lenient on him than you because he was stuck behind Dirty Air. Go on, George. Dirty.
Dirty Air.
I don't know. It's a family thing. My family just goes dirty.
No,
I don't know why.
But I think I'll quickly jump in here and say that I gave him a 4C, but because it's not. Although the car's aerodynamics, he's moaning about saying that we can't. If the moment he's behind someone, the car's undrivable. But he qualified the way he did his qualifying. He hasn't highlighted this issue in the last 2 weeks. I don't know. I kind of just.
Oh, is he just making excuses?
Yeah, that and the way yes, all right. He apologised, but I don't know. My view of George has been soured slightly by that.
Well, it has been as well. I'm not.
So I don't know. I'm hoping with luck that he actually will start to deliver a bit better than this, because like bear in mind he qualified 11th and ended 16th.
I gave Mick Schumacher I gave him a score A. You know, he beat Latifi, which is, you know, usually he just beats his teammate. He actually beat Latifi, so got to give him some credit there, but it still wasn't amazing, you know. I still think he's got a lot more potential, and I think he could have been a lot higher. Okay, yes, the car's not exactly amazing, but like other drivers have had really crap cars, and they still put in the points.
Yeah. No,
anyway.
Because I'll match with you because I've got the same grade, so it doesn't matter. I agree that there's a lot more potential to show. I know Gunther Steiner has actually said that he's a good driver. He's just hampered by us. And he's still got a career, essentially, beyond us. So
we will see. We will see. Well, we will know Ferrari is going to want him at some point. Yeah. Then I put Latifi 3A. He was just there. He was all right. I mean, he got drove into by he didn't get wrong person. Latifi, he was just there basically. And then Mazepin, I'd like to put an A. I think I have done before, but I do feel like he should get something for finishing. But he started last and finished last, so I gave him a 1C. Not really impressed because he blue flags and tried to ruin someone's race, so which is quite dangerous. So not happy. And then Kimi, I gave a 4C. He qualified quite well for his car.
Bearing in mind that
he just drove into someone.
Bearing in mind he DNFs are hitting his teammate, and you're more lenient with him than you are with Mazepin.
He didn't try to kill someone.
So, okay. Well, I'm picking up where I...
Seriously, think about it, though. If he was turning the same corner as Perez, and he went into Perez, and they were at quite speed...
Yeah.
Because I don't know where it was in the track, but sometimes you can brake later than others. You know, that could have been a serious accident.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think this is the problem. Latifi didn't just do that to Perez, though. He did that... Not Latifi... Mazepin didn't do that to Perez. He had other problems as well. Because he got the 5 flags was 5 blue flags up to that point. He'd been timed that he'd off thing. I don't know. He seems. When last week we said, "Oh, let my driving do the talking." Yes, your driving's doing the talking, and shown that you're all full of hot air. But anyway, Latifi, I was a bit kinder than you. I gave him a 4B because this is the first Grand Prix this season he's finished. Actually got over the line with the car. So, bear in mind he's DNF'd in the first 2. So, it's good showing from him, I think. Mazepin, I agree 1C. We've already discussed blue flags and everything else. Kimi, I agreed 4C. Great qualifying. It was just a rookie mistake from him. He just didn't realise how much slipstream he had. Like, you could see where he immediately took his foot off the accelerator and on the brake, and he just too late. He was into the back of Giovinazzi. So, yeah. So, well, now that we've gone through and done our ratings, let's quickly do our predictions. So I'm just going to point out there and be really smug about it that I got full house this week. I got every single one of the podium right. I predicted Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, Norris. And yeah, no, I was quite happy with that. So,
I'm not. I got none. No, right. Guest polls, because on the Instagram, right, I was doing the Instagram if you don't know, and I put another thing saying, who do you think is going to get pole? And I put Bottas as the one who's going to get pole. And this was like before Q3 started, so we all know who was going to be in it. But like I guess roughly who was going to be the top 4 and who do you think is going to win. So I put Bottas, so I should get a point for that.
Okay, yeah, you can have a point. You can have a point for that. We'll give you a commiseration point.
A bit rude, but I actually guessed it. I did ask you who to say, because you didn't do anything.
Yeah, no, sorry. I this is the thing. I ended up getting caught out outdoors for longer. I went for a birthday picnic, and I was.
Okay, I'll give you the excuse. So this week for our predictions, we're adding in a bonus point if we guess pole. So I went for Bottas because I thought it spiced it up for Spain. He recently got pole in 2019. However, Hamilton got the other bit. I wanted to really put Hamilton, but I thought I'd spice it up a bit.
So
I wonder who George has gone for.
I've gone for Hamilton because the track record of he had pole in 2020, he had pole in 2018, 2017. Like I'm quite comfortable with thinking he's probably going to pull it out. I don't think. I think this is going to be another general, exact replica of what we've had this week, because the irony is not only so we may have differed on pole predictions. Our predictions for our top 5 are exactly the same, because I think it's now becoming a bit predictable.
Yeah, I basically think the people going to be in the top 5, it may slightly change a little bit. So maybe Leclerc might come in there now and again. But I do think top 5 are roughly going to be the same.
Yeah.
Shall I say top 6, really? The top 6, they may slightly change place here and there, but I do think it's going to be the same.
Yeah. So if we get another full house like this again next week, we're going to have to think of ways to change how our point system, because clearly predicting the top 5 isn't going to be good enough anymore, because it's just not as competitive as we believe. So we'd have to think of a few more, like first driver to spin, first driver to do this, driver to...
Yeah.
So, but anyway...
Or guess who's going to DNF.
Yeah, no, that would be a good one. Because I definitely would have I wouldn't have predicted Kimi to put it like in the back of his teammate. So, but right, on that note, the final scores on the doors so far have me leading with 9 and Ella on 2. So,
hey, we're only on race 3, okay? Things can change.
So, well, we'll see. We will see.
Smiling and laughing at me. Stop it. All right, shall we do our final thoughts?
Yes, we can. I'll let you can start.
Basically, if some of you haven't heard, but if you don't know, me and George are from the University of York. And there is a duck on our campus called Longboy. And he's been causing a lot of media attention this week. Even, been on the Late Show, it's been mentioned in America. Like, people have travelled from campus recently. Like, I was watching Roses and they tried to find Longboy. They interviewed a person who came all the way from Sheffield. Quite a few people are just travelling all the way to York just trying to spot Longboy. He's quite a tall duck. He's an Indian and a crossbreed of something else.
Yeah, he's an Indian runner duck crossed with a mallard.
Yes.
So he looks like a mallard, but has
He's tall for a mallard, but he's technically his average height for an Indian runner.
So he's actually 70 centimeters tall. He's actually not that they say over a meter. That's where the Reddit post, because I saw the Reddit post on interesting as insert expletive word here, and that's where it blew up. And it was suddenly I just thought, that's quite funny. I go to University of York. That's cool. I'll upvote that. I come back to it, and 100,000 upvotes later, and suddenly it's just everywhere. Like Twitter, I've seen posting pictures of it. So that's why we joined in on the action, and we created some of our Longboy memes. And what was really impressive was there is a Longboy fan account that has been long running. It's like Your Fest or something like that. It's long standing page that students have been running, and we even got a bit of a response for it. And the response, Ella texted it to me, and it made me giggle. I'm just going to pull it up now because they said, he may not be as fast as an F1 car, but Longboy can certainly move when there's a promise of munch. And I just thought, yeah, that sums it up.
That's quite. I wasn't expecting a reply. Like, obviously, like, we tagged them because, why not?
Yeah.
We want the follows. But I was just a bit like, quite funny.
Well, this week, we're off now. We've only got a few more days, and then we'll find ourselves in Barcelona. So we are
Barcelona.
Yes. Well, I think, I don't know. I'm hoping for a bit more of an exciting weekend. I hope so. Barcelona's going to be slightly exciting in some way.
Basically, guys, sorry if people were really interested in our track circuits, but Portugal, we just didn't get around to it because we've got essays, and this is we're not sure whether we're going to get time to do the same one. However, they will be posted later on in the year. So when basically there isn't a race, we're going to just plonk them in there. So you can look forward to them there. And then, but basically, sorry. And we've got videos on our YouTube channel, and continue watching our podcast. And don't be afraid to message us and write in the comments and just tell us your thoughts, because we want to hear from you to put in the podcast. So please do.
Yep. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our time here on Chassis Chatter for the coverage of the Portuguese Grand Prix. And as Ella says, just make sure you follow us on social media and enjoy, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
See you all soon.